The day before the college entrance exam, someone tampered with my water. My best friend managed to beat me out for the only spot reserved for direct admission. My childhood friend comforted me. "It's okay. You still have one more chance to take the college entrance exam." But on the day of the college entrance exam, I was kidnapped. My childhood friend missed the college entrance exam because he tried to save me. To repay a debt of gratitude, I married my childhood sweetheart. Years later, my best friend, who had graduated from a prestigious university, arrived at my wedding looking stunning. But I happened to overhear a conversation between my childhood friend and her. Ran. Thanks to you, she failed both exams. Otherwise, I definitely wouldn't have been able to marry her. Sue Ran gave a scornful laugh. What can I say? She's my dad's daughter from his ex-wife. If I don't drag her through the mud, how is my mom ever going to get the better of that old woman? In a fit of rage, I drove my car into them, leaving them all disabled, and was sentenced to death. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn into my senior year of high school. Nan, let me get you some water. You can use this break to work on 2 more problems. Sue Ran stood in front of me and said timidly. Before I could say a word, she took the empty cup from my desk. My childhood friend, Heej Jingong, walked from the back row and sat down next to me. Nan, Ran is so kind to you. Even though she's always second best, she's still willing to give up her break time so you can practice problems. The way he put it, it sounded like I'd taken some huge advantage of Sue Ran. The students around him looked over, each with a different expression on their face. Someone whispered, "Is Shin Nan bullying the school beauty? Aren't they childhood friends? Why do I feel like the school beauty looks so insignificant next to her?" It's precisely because we grew up together that we're so easily fooled. As He Jing listened to these words, a hint of a smile flashed across his eyes, but he pretended to be angry and shouted at them, "Shut up all of you. Nan isn't that kind of person." After the silence, Hai Jing looked at me with deep affection in his eyes. Nan, no matter how many people misunderstand you, I'll always be on your side." I ignored Hai Jing. I didn't even bother to look up. It was on this very day in my past life. I drank the water Suran had poured for me, got so dehydrated, I passed out, and ended up missing the college entrance exam without me as an opponent. Suran successfully went from being the perennial runner-up to taking first place. The homeroom teacher said to me with a sigh, "The teacher knows what you're capable of, but the school has its rules and that can't be changed. You didn't show up for the exam according to the rules." The guaranteed spot goes to Sue Ran, including my homeroom teacher knows my background. And she also knows how much I care about the reward for coming in first on this joint entrance exam. Her voice trembled as she struggled to bring herself to say it. That includes the privilege of having all 4 years of college tuition waived that should go to Suran. 2. I am an orphan. I was abandoned when I was very young. It was Grandma, Hai Jing, who took me in. The He family wasn't well off. Grandma, he took me in so that I could become Hai Jing's child bride. That way, Hai Jing won't have to spend any money when he gets married. At the Hai family's place, I did the laundry, cooked, fed the chickens and pigs. I did everything. Yet, they still don't have enough to eat or warm clothes to wear. Fortunately, 9 years of compulsory education has become universal. The village party secretary brought the police to the He family's house, and only then was I able to go to school. Tuition for middle and high school is free, so I just need to do some part-time jobs in my spare time to earn a little spending money. But college tuition is expensive. I've studied hard these past 3 years specifically to earn the reward of 4 years of tuition-free college that comes with passing this joint entrance exam. My Phil, why won't pay for my college education? And they won't let me go to college. They were afraid that once I went to college and saw the world, I wouldn't want to marry Hij Jing. So, they tried every trick in the book to keep me in this backward, impoverished mountainous region in my previous life. After failing the college entrance exam, I returned to school to get a cup for a blood test at the hospital, but I just couldn't find the cup anywhere. I went to check the classroom surveillance footage with my homeroom teacher, but I was told that the surveillance system had been damaged a week earlier. The final footage from TH surveillance camera shows Hai Jing dribbling a basketball in the classroom. The ball bounced up and smashed the camera. Given all these coincidences, I haven't been without my suspicions about Hijing. It wasn't until he gave up on the college entrance exam to come find me that my doubts were put to rest. But who could have imagined that it was all just a charade he had staged himself just to make me feel indebted to him for the rest of my life? He knew he wouldn't get into college, and he wouldn't be able to handle it anyway. He was afraid that if I got into a good university, I would rise above my social class and leave him behind. So he and Swan conspired to ruin my future. Swan placed the cup of water on my desk. She gave me a timid smile, her eyes brimming with cautious flattery. Nan, I poured you a mix of half hot water and half cold water. It's just the right temperature now, so you can drink it. My eyes fell on the question, and I just went not bothering to look at her. She bit her lip and her eyes instantly welled up with tears. Nan, did I do something wrong? You're being so cold. Sue Ran was very popular in her class and thanks to her striking looks. Many people stood up for her class monitor. What's with the attitude? The school beauty doesn't owe you anything. She went out of her way to get you some water. And you're acting all aloof. Can't you at least say thank you? I didn't even look up. Thank you. The man who had been attacking me faltered and Sue Ran froze in surprise. The bell rang. Sue Ran had no choice but to return to her seat. Feeling resentful, I looked at my cup, then glanced at the identical cup on Swan's desk. Swan and Hijing live in the same village, but her family is a little better off than the Hay family. A lot of my things were given to me by Swan after she was done using them. I am always grateful for this. Even though she loves to tease me about it in front of a crowd, the clothes Nan is wearing are mine. They were too big on me, but they fit her perfectly. There are far too many comments like that. In elementary school, my classmates used to tease me, calling me a beggar because I treat the things Sue Ran threw away like treasures. Later, when I was in middle and high school, whenever she buys something, she always buys two. One for herself and one for me. If I don't want it, she'll give it to Grandma He. I thought I'd finally shaken off the label off beggar, but instead I've been dubbed a bookworm. I give all the money I earn from odd jobs to Saran. I don't want to owe her anything. I've always believed that everyone is imperfect and has flaws. No one is perfect in all matters. Judge by actions, not intentions. And when judged by actions, no one is perfect. Whatever her intentions may have been, at least she gave me clothes to wear and a cup to use. But it wasn't until my dying moments that I learned the truth about my origins. I was actually her half-sister. It turns out that her malice wasn't just my imagination after all. In the small mirror, I saw Swan's venomous gaze fixed on my cup. I deliberately picked up the cup and unscrewed the lid. Her pupils dilated slightly, and the corners of her mouth twitched with excitement. The next moment, I screwed the lid back on. Her pupils contracted. She clenched her teeth and her fingers dug uncontrollably into the palms of her hands. For the entire class, I kept at it, wearing her down and testing her patience. Her eyes, which had once been clear, were bloodshot by the time class was about to end. Her body couldn't stop trembling either. I found it a bit funny with a mindset like that. She actually dared to do something wrong. When the bell rang, Sue Ran jumped to her feet. I immediately picked up the glass, swallowed hard, and pretended to take a few sips of water. Only then did she sit back down, letting out a sigh of relief. I put the lid on the cup and leaned my head on the table, pretending to rest. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her leading Hijing out. While they were away, I poured the water from the cup into an empty plastic bottle, put it in my backpack, and hid it there. I set the empty cup back on the table. When Sue Ran came back, she deliberately walked past me and picked up my cup. The lighter weight made her overjoyed. Nan, let me get you some more water. As soon as she finished speaking, she grabbed my cup and ran out, smiling. In the next class, I pretended to clutch my stomach and cry in pain in the mirror. Swan couldn't help but smile slightly as she exchanged a glance with Ying in the back row. Seeing that the time was right, I couldn't help but clutch my stomach and stand up, then asked the English teacher for permission to leave. Teacher. My stomach suddenly hurts really bad. My English teacher is my favorite teacher and she's also my homeroom teacher. In his previous life, he pulled strings everywhere on my behalf. Even in the end, when I failed the college entrance exam, He also went to the Hay family's house to see Grandma Hay and said he was willing to pay for me to repeat the year. But Grandma, he hit him on the head with a broom and chased him out. Not only that, but Grandma, he even went to the school and made a scene, telling everyone that the homeroom teacher had ulterior motives toward me. This led to the homeroom teacher being suspended and being reported by parents for verbal abuse. Even so, when Haijing took me south to find work, my homeroom teacher still sent me a message to encourage me. Shin-nan, you may have missed the college entrance exam, but you haven't missed out on your whole life. In the future, you can return to school through self-study for adult education or pursue other options. Life is long. Never give up on yourself. Now, the homeroom teacher saw me looking a mess. With sweat pouring down my face and tears streaming down my cheeks, I immediately contacted the nurse in the infirmary to have her take me there, having experienced the pain of dehydration in my past life. It comes naturally to me in this one. Su Ran and Haijing came to see me. When they saw me running back and forth to the bathroom, looking pale as a ghost, they finally felt reassured and went back to class. During the last evening study session, I asked my homeroom teacher for permission to check into a hospital outside the school. The homeroom teacher sighed regretfully in the classroom. How could this happen? Shannon actually ended up in the hospital at such a crucial time. The college entrance exams are tomorrow. No, I have to go see her. After the homeroom teacher left, Suan and Heejing were overjoyed. On the way back, Suan found herself humming a tune. I didn't go to morning study hall the next day when Su Ran saw that no one was sitting in my seat. She breathed a sigh of relief. Her exam was held at a different school than mine because I was sick. My homeroom teacher was worried about me, so he personally took me to and from the exam hall. I didn't return to school until after the exam was over. When Su Ran saw me, she hurried over and said sadly, "Nan Nan, that's such a shame. How could you have missed the exam?" I smiled. It's okay. There's still the college entrance exam. She let out a little. A hand said it pointedly with a smug look on her face. This entrance exam determines whether you'll get a direct admission spot and full tuition waiver. The bell rang, and she returned to her seat, where she found a note tucked under her cup. I got up early this morning and wrote, "Take your timing," in Haijing's handwriting. I poured all the water I had replaced that day. The water I'd used to fill the mineral water bottles into Suan's cup. She held the cup to her lips and took a sip, a sweet smile playing on her lips. As Haijing walked past Suan with a basketball in his arms, Su Ran, her cheeks flushed, gave him a wink. Haijing scratched the back of his head in puzzlement and smiled in response. Su Ran became even more certain that Haijing had given her the note. In less than a class period, Suan had finished an entire glass of water. Just as class ended, she stood up to go find Haijing, but suddenly clutched her lower abdomen, collapsed to the ground, and began convulsing. She clutched her stomach, got up from the floor, and ran toward the bathroom. He didn't come back for 2 whole classes. The homeroom teacher asked someone to go find her. In the end, I found her in the hallway outside the restroom. She was unconscious from dehydration, just like I was in my previous life. Haijing frowned as he watched Suan being carried out. He walked up to me and asked, "Nan Nan, Suan's condition is so similar to what you went through, only much worse." He spoke quite loudly. So many people in the class heard him. "Yeah. Class president, did you pass it on to the school beauty? Don't give it to us. The college entrance exams are coming up. Sunway can't afford to get sick. Shin Nan, if you're sick, you should take a leave of absence and go home right away. Don't hold everyone else back. Everyone knows you're an orphan and that you're dirt poor. Who knows if there's some infectious disease they can't afford to treat. I guess the school beauty just got too close to you and caught it far. You." Shouts of questioning and scolding rang out one after another. I looked at Haijing, but he didn't show the slightest bit of concern for me. The louder the insults and humiliations directed at me grew, the better he felt. King always says he loves me and that I'm the most important person in his life, but his love always puts me in an awkward position. When the students saw their homeroom teacher walk in at that moment, they immediately said, "Teacher Saran's symptoms are exactly the same as Shannon were back then. It must have been Shannon who infected her. We're all about to take the college entrance exams. What if she infects us?" Let her take a leave of absence. Or else we'll all call the Department of Education to protest. Haijing really enjoys putting me in a position where everyone despises me. Whenever this happens, he'll appear just like a hero sent from heaven. Stand in front of me and stand up for me. But these storms were clearly all his doing. I watched his performance with a cold eye. Sure, Inu. The very next second, he stepped in front of me, his back to me. What nonsense are you talking about? Nan. Nan isn't an orphanage been adopted by my family. I won't let you talk nonsense. Nan isn't sick at all. Last time she just had an upset stomach, and Su Ran could tell right away that she had food poisoning. King turned and looked at me tenderly. Nan, as long as I'm here, no one will ever bully you. The students were about to speak again when the homeroom teacher slammed the book he was holding down on the desk. Do you have any evidence? Any evidence that Shannon infected Suan? How can you spout such nonsense about something with no evidence? All those years of schooling went right down the drain. Didn't they? The classroom fell instantly silent. Someone couldn't help but whisper, but their symptoms are clearly the same. The homeroom teacher raised her voice. The night Su Ran fell ill, I personally took her to the hospital to get in for and undergo various tests. Don't I know if she's sick or not? I took out the test results from that day. Everyone, please watch this all the way through. Once you're done, those few of you who were barking just now, remember to apologize to me. After passing it around, the students all reluctantly fell silent. The order ultimately went to Haijing. As you can clearly see above. I don't have any health issues, the homeroom teacher said angrily. Shin Nan just has pre-exam jitters, which is why she has a stomachache and needs to use the restroom. How could that be the same as Zhao Ran? The students fell silent after Haijing finished reading the list. The smile in his eyes vanished instantly. He looked up suddenly and stared at me in disbelief. I stared at him coldly. My gaze made him feel a chill run down his spine. Nan, you, I looked at him with disgust. King, get as far away from me as you can. You really make me feel sick to my stomach. After saying that, I went back to my seat and started working on the practice problems. He let his classmates and homeroom teacher stare at him. The homeroom teacher said unhappily, Haijing Shin-nan is the hope of the entire school. Her success will inspire so many of the younger students who follow in her footsteps. Can you please stop holding her back? I'm begging you as her teacher. Her score is 3 times yours plus a third. How can you even do this? Haijing's face went pale and he staggered back to his seat. All day long, he stared at me like a ghost. His classmates asked him to go to the hospital with them to visit Suran, but he refused. King is different from me. I earned my way into this high school while he got in through his family's connections. Before he transferred here, everyone knows I'm an orphan. But no one has ever made fun of me. They even set up a crowdfunding campaign to help cover my expenses and encourage me to study hard. Ever since Haijing arrived, any guy who gets close to me, he always goes around telling people I was taken in by his grandmother. I was his child, Bree. Duh. I'm going to marry him someday. I've eaten at the Hay family's table, so I'm one of the Hay family. Life was pretty tough for everyone in high school, especially at top high schools. With daily tutoring sessions and endless test papers under extremely high pressure, the gossip spread like wildfire throughout the entire grade. I became the butt of everyone's jokes. As soon as everyone saw me, they started teasing Haijing. Haijing, your child bride is here. The laughter made me feel humiliated. My fragile self-esteem was trampled underfoot and rubbed in the dirt. Haijing, however, took it in stride. Not to mention Su Ran's role in fueling the situation. People's impression of me has taken a turn for the worse. They said I was jealous of Su Ran's beauty, so I picked on her. The label-off bookworm seems to be an inescapable nightmare that has dogged my youth, following me like a shadow. Leaving these mountains and getting into a college in the county seat had somehow become my only reason for going on during my entire high school years. When school let out that afternoon, Haijing came up to me and pulled his usual trick. To be honest, Haijing is quite good-looking. He knows his strengths and is very good at playing the victim in front of me every time. I haven't felt sorry for him yet. Some of the other girls spoke up on her behalf. Nan, Grandma made dinner and said she's waiting for you to come home and eat. I put the books in my backpack. I'm not going back. Jing, I'm never going back. A flicker of panic crossed his eyes. What do you mean? The literal meaning. I took out a form stamped by the relevant authorities and handed it to him. It clearly states termination of adoption right there. Jing, I have nothing to do with your family anymore. And I have nothing to do with you either. If you keep claiming I was your child bride and that I'm going to marry you someday, I'll sue your grandmother for child trafficking and false imprisonment. Kia looked at the words on the watch, his lips trembling. Chin Nan, how could you do this? My grandmother raised you all these years. How could you be so ungrateful and now you're slandering her like this? More and more students gathered around to watch the commotion. The school has a D&D half break every Friday. So many students from other classes come to our classroom to wait for their friends. Now both inside and outside the classroom. Crowds of onlookers have gathered. Jing spoke loudly and they all heard him. The voices condemning me have risen once again. King wasn't a strong student, but he was quite skilled in the art of subtle historical commentary. He always puts people on the moral high ground and accuses them. Then they cast themselves as the most innocent party. I laughed coldly. Your grandmother took me in just to save the money she'd have to pay as a dowry when you grew up and got married. When I came to live with you, I started learning to cook at the age of 4. Standing on a stool, I don't even have a single decent piece of clothing to wear. It's the middle of winter, and my feet are frozen blue. Yet, you get to sit by the fire. When it was time to start school, you got to go to school, but I had to stay home to cut grass for the pigs and feed the chickens. The village party secretary came by a few times, talking about compulsory education and how I needed to go to school. But my grandmother wouldn't even register me for a household registration. She was just afraid I'd run away. Finally, the village party secretary said that since your grandmother hadn't formally adopted me, she was going to send me to an orphanage. My grandma was afraid I'd run away, so she registered me with the authorities. That way, when the police came by, I could go to school. I was only 16 when I was a freshman in high school. Jing grew angry and ashamed and suddenly glared at me fiercely and shouted, "Don't say another word." I gave a cold laugh, showing no fear at all. Yet, my eyes grew redder and redder as I spoke. Why won't you tell me? Didn't you say I was ungrateful? Didn't you say your grandmother was taking care of me when I was only 14? Your grandmother locked you in my room in the middle of the night. I want you to force yourself on me. Take my body so I can't run away and then I'll have no choice but to marry you. If I hadn't stabbed myself with scissors and scared you, you and your grandmother would have ruined me long ago. Don't you just think that because this involves my reputation? And since I'm a girl and care about my dignity, I'm too embarrassed to speak up. That's why you've been acting so brazenly all this time. Jing. I don't care about my reputation anymore. All I want is to do well on the college entrance exams and live a decent life. You say your grandmother raised me. Have I ever taken a single penny from your family all these years? My tuition and living expenses are fully covered. But I spend my free time doing odd jobs. When I go back to your house, I have to do all the chores. And your grandmother even takes my money. What exactly have you people ever done for me? What kind of loyalty do you owe me? I pressed forward relentlessly. Speaking with conviction, the once quiet classroom suddenly erupted with shouts of abuse directed at Jing. Have you no shame, Jing? And to think you've been saying that to everyone. You had everyone thinking you and the class monitor were a couple. But it turns out it was just a one-sided crush on your part. Isn't this just human trafficking? The class monitor gets such good grades. Jing really should take a good look at himself and realize what a loser he is. The class monitor really has it worse than a child laborer. One curse after another rained down on Jing. After all, he's just a high school senior. This is exactly the time when people are most concerned about saving face and have a strong sense of self-respect. He kicked over a nearby desk, let out a furious scream, and pushed his way through the crowd. Running toward the exit, the owner of the table is the physical education representative. The physical education teacher grabbed Jing by the back of his collar. Are you out of your mind? King, you're just lashing out because you're embarrassed. Why did you kick my desk? Don't you have a table of your own? King Yuan punched the sports official in the face. Let go of me. The two of them started fighting, and it was inevitable that the students nearby would get caught in the crossfire. The male classmates who had previously disliked Haijing all joined the fray. It quickly escalated from a fight between two people to a brawl involving a large group. Haijing's anguished voice reached my ears, but I pretended not to hear it and simply went about packing my things at a leisurely pace. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and headed out the back door only to run into my homeroom teacher standing there. He looked at me with a complex expression. I don't know how long I listened. I opened my mouth and lowered my gaze. Throughout my 2 lifetimes, I have always felt ashamed before this mentor. He has high hopes for me and has spared no effort in helping me over the past 3 years. Compulsory 9-year education only covered my tuition. On top of that, there are living expenses and textbook costs. In particular, the cost of photocopying exam papers at our prestigious high school is a huge expense for me. In my previous life, I thought it was my homeroom teacher who had to appeal to the principal multiple times before I was granted a waiver for my living expenses, textbook fees, and photocopying costs. It wasn't until many years later when I returned home, but I found out after running into a retired teacher from my school. At the time, the principal only agreed to waive my living expenses. The rest of the expenses were secretly covered by my homeroom teacher. Not only that, he noticed that I spent my 1 day off each week doing odd jobs, all of them physically demanding manual labor. When he found out, he invited me to his home to tutor his elementary school-aged son for a fee. It's funny, really. It wasn't until I grew up that I understood this. The homeroom teacher has been teaching for many years. Surely, he can handle a group of elementary school kids. He was clearly doing everything he could to help me. Yet, he still took care not to hurt my fragile, youthful pride. Now that I've lived 2 lifetimes, when I meet his gaze, I can't help but feel a pang of sadness. He reached out and patted me on the shoulder. Xin Nan, a golden phoenix can rise from the mountains, and paulownia trees grow in the valleys. You will definitely live the life you want. His eyes were a little red, and I glanced at the classmate sitting next to him. Their expressions betrayed either shame or guilt, but there was no sarcasm whatsoever. That night, I was fast asleep in my dorm room. The dorm supervisor asked me to come down and answer the phone. On the other end of the line was Haijing's voice, trembling with hurt. Nan, don't hang up. I need to talk to you. You know all this, right? Su Ran drugged you. But I had nothing to do with it. Nan, you can't take it out on me. I fought back the nausea. Our accomplice is not guilty. His voice choked up. Nan, I'm just afraid you'll leave me. I'm afraid that once you get into a good college and meet someone new, you'll abandon me. I really can't live without you. I let out a cold laugh. Qijing, I've never been with you. Can you stop being so self-absorbed? He gasped. You're still mad at me, aren't you? And as for the college entrance exam, Nan, if you rank in the top 10, someone will still cover your tuition, even if no one else is willing to support you. I'll earn the money to pay for your education. Nan, I'll show you how determined I am to make things right with you. Before he could say a word, I hung up. After Su Ran returned to school, she cornered Haijing during recess. I've been in the hospital for a few days now. Why haven't you come to see me? Haijing glanced at me and said to her impatiently as if trying to distance himself from the situation. Could you please stay away from me? Swan's eyes welled up with tears. What do you mean? If I hadn't drunk the water you poured for me, I wouldn't have gotten sick. King pushed her away. Are you out of your mind? Who filled your glass? He looked at me pleadingly. Nan. I really haven't ever gotten her a drink. I chuckled and ignored him. Su Ran realized what was happening, took a few quick steps toward me, and grabbed my wrist tightly. It was you, wasn't it? I slapped her hand hard. I don't understand what you're saying, Su Ran said angrily. Are you getting back at me? Why would I want to get back at you? What did you do to make me want to get back at you? That's a tough one to figure out. Su Ran raised an eyebrow and glanced at Haijing, who looked away. Suan let out a cold laugh. Xin Nan, aren't you afraid I'll call the police? It'll ruin your whole life. I smiled. Then go check the surveillance footage. Ke Jing was so ashamed that he didn't even dare to look at me. He just walked straight out the back door. In the classroom, only Su Ran and I were left. Su Ran folded her arms and looked down at me. I never would have guessed. Xin Nan, you've put on quite a show all these years. I never imagined that holding a grudge over the slightest slight was your true nature. But what good does it do to take revenge on me? You still missed the college entrance exam. First place is mine. The school's only guaranteed admission spot is mine. And the scholarship covering all 4 years of college tuition is mine. Actually, I don't need the college entrance exam bonus at all. But I know this is your last hope. So, I just don't want to give it to you. You're just going to rot away in this backwater for the rest of your life. I let out a half-hearted laugh. Really, we'll see. Su Ran held her head high and let out a contemptuous snort. Just tough it out. The joint entrance exam results were released during evening study hall. The homeroom teacher placed the printed grade sheet on the teacher's desk. He held the thermos with a smile on his face. "Call me on up and take a look." Su Ran sat in his seat, smug and unmoving, staring at me with a look of pure defiance in his eyes. I took a sip of water and didn't move. He let the other students crowd around the podium to look at the score sheet. Su Ran waited for her classmates to call out her name, but all I got in return was, "The gap between first and second place is huge, over 100 points. Oh my gosh. Su Ran couldn't hold back the smile playing on her lips. But the very next second, "The class monitor is so awesome, the school beauty can't hold a candle to her." Su Ran stood up. Her face flushed. "What are you talking about? That's impossible." She pushed her classmates aside as if she had lost her mind. Rushed to the front of the classroom, grabbed the grade sheet, and stared at it wide-eyed, reading it over and over again. No matter how hard she pounded her head, she kept closing her eyes and opening them again. All I could see were the 2 characters. Shinan. Her hands were trembling as she looked at me, completely distraught. Her eyes bloodshot. She ran up to me and attacked me. "You lied to me, Shinan. You lied to me." I took her hand and whispered in her ear, my face expressionless. "I didn't retaliate against you on the day of your college entrance exams. Do you know why? Because I'm more than strong enough to crush you. So, you'll understand the gap between you and me." Su Ran. "If you're not as good as others, you have to admit it." I shook off her hand and she collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, just like I was in my previous life. In my previous life, when I woke up after failing the college entrance exam, my world came crashing down. It felt as if everything had gone dark. Thankfully, there's still the college entrance exam. But after I failed the college entrance exam, all I wanted to do was die. Later, Ke Jing and I went south to find work and I kept earning money while studying for my self-study exams. The college entrance exam questions I missed that year. For many years afterward, I could recite it by heart because that is the life I missed out on. When Haijing came back from PE and found out I had scored first on the college entrance exam, he froze for a few seconds before falling silent. Unlike Su Ran, he didn't have an emotional breakdown or start yelling, but instead I was greeted by an uninvited guest. Su Ran's father in the principal's office. The man smiled at me. He opened a large supermarket in town, and his hometown is just a stone's throw away from the He family's place. I've been calling him Uncle Su for 18 years. He watched as I was abused by the He family and even nearly lost my legal status. Yet he never showed me the slightest bit of compassion from the gossip among the villagers. I pieced together a picture of Su Yuan's ex-wife, me mother. She died from massive bleeding and a difficult childbirth. The big one and the little one both are dead. Less than 2 weeks after his death, Su Wan brought home a woman who was heavily pregnant and about to give birth. That person was Su Ran's mother. After the principal left, only Su Yuan and I were left in the office. He looked at me and smiled, his face full of tenderness. "You've really grown up. You've made something of yourself. You're the first kid from our village to get into a top-tier university. You've really made something of yourself." The more he looked at me, the more pleased he was. It wasn't as if he were looking at his daughter. Rather, he was looking at his pride and his badge of honor. I said, "I'm not involved." "Uncle Su, is there something you need?" He let out a soft sigh and his eyes instantly welled up with tears. Nan Nan, I'm actually your father. I couldn't acknowledge you before because of Aunt Jang. You're all grown up now and about to go to college. Even if she and Dad get divorced, Dad will still claim you as his own. I don't believe it. Having lived 2 lifetimes, acting is a piece of cake for him. Su Yan took me to the hospital for a DNA test. And when the results came back, I threw myself into his arms and burst into tears. Dad, you don't know how much I wished you were my dad when I was little and saw how much you loved Ran. I never thought you were really my dad. Su Yuan took me back to the small villa he had built in the countryside. When Su Ran saw me, she couldn't take it anymore and flew into a rage. Rushing over and shoving me, I let myself fall to the ground and wept silently. Su Yuan was so furious that he slapped Suan across the face. She's my older sister. What are you doing? Go back to your room. Su Ran left in tears while Aunt Jang, standing nearby, was grinding her teeth in frustration. Thanks to Su Wan, I managed to transfer my household registration out of the Hai family. Grandma, he was absolutely refusing to agree at first. Su Wan ran a supermarket and hired some thugs to protect the store. On his way home, Haijing was beaten several times while wearing a burlap sack, leaving him with a black eye and a swollen face. The worst time. I broke his leg. Only after Grandma he had made a huge fuss did she finally hand over my household registration book. I successfully transferred my household registration out of the Hay family. What seemed like an impossible task to me was a piece of cake for Su Yuan. It takes a bad person to deal with a bad person. Now that I've been admitted without an entrance exam, I don't have to go to school anymore. I stayed at home cooking meals and making soup for Su Wan every day, playing the part of the beautiful daughter to the fullest. These are all things Swan doesn't usually do. Su Ran is very spoiled with her as a point of comparison. In Su Yuan's eyes, even my smallest good qualities are magnified. Meanwhile, every day as Su Ran listened to Su Yen's praise of me, her mood grew worse and worse until she finally broke down. She can't stand seeing me fawn over Su Yuan. Nor can she stand seeing Su Yuan treat me nicely. She couldn't stand seeing how close we were. She threw a tantrum and cried. She smashed plates and bowls. Then Su Wan would yell at them. And in severe cases, he would even get physical. And so almost every day for the Su family was trapped in a vicious cycle. Under this emotional pressure, Su Ran simply couldn't study. On the day of the college entrance exam, I showed up right on time. She glared at me. What are you doing here? I laughed. Let's have another go. I'll show you that it really wasn't a fluke when you lost to me. I looked into her eyes, but it's reality. You're just someone I've already defeated. Every time you lose to me. That's just the way it is. Su Ran. You have to accept your fate. Anger and hatred flashed in her eyes, but deep down it was fear and dread. I walked into the exam room, but she stayed right where she was. I threw her off balance. When the college entrance exam results came out, Su Ran scored over 200 points lower than me and barely made it into a first-tier university. Su Wan looked a little disgusted. You couldn't even get into a top-tier university. I've invested so much in you over the years. The money I spent on tutoring could have bought an apartment in the city. You're such a waste. Su Ran broke down and burst into tears. I served the soup I had been simmering. Dad, don't get upset. Have some soup first. You're not in the best of health. So, you really need to take care of yourself. Aunt Sheng was so angry that she knocked over my soup and got into a fight with me. Su Wan slapped him back. The house was a complete mess. I packed my bags under cover of night, making sure to make a lot of noise on purpose. Sure enough, Su Yuan came out to see me and asked what I was doing. I said through my sobs, I've lost my mom and now you're all I have left, even though I really want to live with Dad. I don't want to disrupt his life. I found a part-time job at an educational institution in Beijing. Whenever I have time, I'll call you often to check in on you. Su Yuan wiped his tears with the back of his hand and handed me a bank card. There's 1500000 on this card. Use it for now, and if you need more, just let Dad know. I made polite small talk for a moment, then withdrew during my college years. My excellent grades brought great pride to Su Wan in front of his relatives back in the countryside with me as a point of comparison. Su Ran has become immature. Su Wan and Su Ron's mother argue frequently. What kind of feelings could a man who cheated on his wife and abandoned his daughter while still married possibly have? Who knows how many women Su Yan has on the side? I stuck to my strategy of being sweet-talking but ruthless to the very end, tricking Su Wan into funding my master's and doctoral studies all the way through until I went abroad for further studies. For someone like Su Wian, who never went to college but is obsessed with saving fast at the education filter, is particularly strong. After returning from studying abroad, I started working at Su Wian supermarket. Over the course of 2 years, I successfully transferred all of Su Yu's assets, leaving the supermarket as an empty shell. And so I left this place. My household registration was transferred along with the university when I was in college. Su Ran's mother and Su Wan divorced, and Su Wan nearly lost his mind. Years of drinking and womanizing had taken a toll on his health. He was terminally ill and called me countless times. Before I switched my phone number, I reluctantly took his call. He asked me for money for medical expenses and begged me to save him. I just smiled and said, "Uncle Su, my mom has been dead for 18 years. And you've lived 18 years longer than she did. You should go join her now. I haven't given you a single penny while you're alive. But after you die, I'll give you as much money as you need for your funeral." Before he could start cursing at me, I hung up the phone. He didn't make it through the winter. He died on the day of his death. I set foot once again in the city I had once hated with a passion. At Su Wen's funeral, I wrote my mother's name. The opera performers, drummers, enchanters we invited were also hired for my mother. I also had my mother's grave rebuilt. The guests were all stunned, but none of them dared to say anything. The opera performance on stage was in full swing, and the guests at the table were enjoying their meal. Su Ran suddenly rushed toward me, grabbed a knife, and started stabbing at me. It was Hai Jing who pushed me away. The two of them grappled with each other, and Su Ran slashed off Hai Jing's hand with a single stroke. As the police took Su Ran away, she was still cursing me non-stop. Before the ambulance took Hai Jing away, he smiled at me. "Nan Nan, I'm so glad you're okay." I gave a sarcastic smile. "This is another scheme you and Su Ran cooked up together, isn't it? You really went all out on this one, Qi Jing. What are we going to do if we can't pull this off?" His face turned pale in an instant. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but in the end, he pressed his lips together weakly. "Nan Nan. I'm sorry. No, that's gross." After the funeral, I buried Su Yuan far away. When he buried my mom, there wasn't even a headstone, just a small mound of dirt. That's how I treat him now. 2. I lied to him. Even after he died, I still couldn't bring myself to spend money on him. After all, I grew up poor. I'm sure Uncle Su will understand me.